Romans 2:13 says, "For it is not the hearers of the law who are righteous before God, but the doers of the law who will be justified." Paul's point in that verse was that if someone perfectly fulfilled the law and performed all its conditions, then God would justify them, declare them fully righteous on the basis of their works. As we saw last time in this series on covenant theology, as we thought about the covenant of works, the condition of the covenant of works that God made with Adam was that Adam keep the law. It was a legal covenant. God gave Adam a job to do, and Adam's perfect works were the conditions, the terms of that first covenant. Now, we know that sinners cannot meet that condition, but remember that God made Adam very good, which means that Adam, in his original upright state, was able to fulfill those terms that required perfect obedience. Although in the last video about the legal covenant, I began to explore this point that Adam would have been justified if he had performed perfect obedience to the law's legal demands. This video explores that point in more depth. So this video and the next examine what reward God offered Adam in the covenant of works. This video is a little bit transitionary in that it underscores the legal requirement of perfect obedience and its result in justification. The covenant's reward was first that Adam would have been justified if he had fulfilled the law, and then our next video will look at the potential results of that justification. Now first, let's remind ourselves how the Westminster Confession of Faith 7.2 explains this covenant of works. It says, "The first covenant made with man was a covenant of works, wherein life was promised to Adam, and in him to his posterity, upon condition of perfect and personal obedience." We are now starting to think about what it means that God offered life to Adam and his posterity in this video by thinking about how Adam could have been justified. The way I aim to prove that the point that Adam would have been justified if he had fulfilled the law is by looking at various passages that underscore the relationship between doing the law and justification. Now remember that justification just means the declaration that we are completely righteous in God's sight. It means that God renders the verdict that we have kept and fulfilled all righteousness. I've already thought with you some about Romans 2:13, but it's such an important verse. It says again, "For it is not the hearers of the law who are righteous before God, but the doers of the law who will be justified." The issue is righteousness before God, which this verse connects to justification. The condition for that kind of justification is doing, fulfilling, completing, performing the law. Now, I'm very excited about this. Two passages in the Gospels underscore this same connection between fulfilling the law and the reward of justification. So first, Matthew 19:16-19 says, "And behold, a man came up to him," Jesus, saying, "Teacher, what good deed must I do to have eternal life?" And he said to him, "Why do you ask me about what is good? There is only one who is good. If you would enter life, keep the commandments." He said to him, "Which ones?" And Jesus said, "You shall not murder, you shall not commit adultery, you shall not steal, you shall not bear false witness, honor your father and mother, and you shall love your neighbor as yourself." Note well that man's question to Christ was about obtaining eternal life, which is what our confession says the reward that God offered to Adam in the covenant of works was. So further, though, this man wanted to know what good deed he had to do to obtain eternal life. Jesus did not deny the absolute possibility that one could obtain eternal life by good deeds. He simply said that if this man wanted to obtain life by his good deeds, then he needs to keep the commandments. Christ even specified that the commandments he meant were the ones in the 10 Commandments, which, if you remember, supports our earlier case that the law that Adam was supposed to keep to obtain life was the moral law of the 10 Commandments. Now, this rich young ruler in Matthew 19 was mistaken in assuming that he had and that he could keep the commandments well enough to earn eternal life as a sinner. But the point remains that Christ indicated that the condition for earning eternal life, which we will see is linked to justification by our deeds, is keeping the commandments. Now, the other passage in the Gospels that I want to consider is Luke 10:25-29. It says, "And behold, a lawyer stood up to put him, Jesus, to the test, saying, 'Teacher, what shall I do to inherit eternal life?'" Notice that's the same question from Matthew 19. He, Jesus, said to him, "What is written in the law? How do you read it?" And he answered, "You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul and with all your strength and with all your mind, and your neighbor as yourself." And he, Jesus, said to him, "You have answered correctly. Do this, and you will live." But he, desiring to justify himself, said to Jesus, "And who is my neighbor?" The issue again is obtaining eternal life by doing something. And Jesus again pointed the questioner to the law. This time the moral law is summarized not by stating some of the 10 Commandments, but the even more abridged statement combining Deuteronomy 6:5, "You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your strength," and Leviticus 19:18, "You shall not take vengeance or bear a grudge against your sons of your own people, but you shall love your neighbor as yourself. I am the Lord." Still, the requirement is doing something to obtain life, and that is clear. Equally clear was that the lawyer wanted to justify himself, which Jesus affirmed is possible if we fulfill the law, and quoted that phrase from Leviticus 18:5, "Do this and you will live," which so many of our Reformed forefathers took to be a summary of the covenant of works. It's impossible for we sinners who live after the fall to fulfill the law, but Adam, in his integrity, could have earned his justification and secured the rewards of justification by his obedience. We'll think more about that and what that entails in the next video, but now we see Adam could have been justified by the law.